A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that beauty a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful.
Hello and welcome to the Out of Bounds podcast. It is post NFL draft time. I almost said pre. Um, so we're gonna do our draft grades. We never got around to do our mock drafts just because busy schedules lately. But we have our grades. So I mean, you probably care a little bit more about that as far as your teams. Um, how you doing, Bragg?
Doing good. Um, NFL draft was interesting. One of the crazier drafts I feel like we've had in a while.
Yeah, because I don't think as many picks that happened were expected as like Mel Kiper got one pick right in the whole first round.
Wow.
So if that tells you how everything went,
Was it Bryce
um,
Young?
I know what maybe yeah I think it had to be Bryce Young. So but yeah I'm not feeling great on my end. A little sick, a little banged up. Sinus wise. Not crying, just saying. But the show continues. The show goes on. Um, we don't care about sickness. But for real, if you are sick, go see a doctor or something. Anyway, um, so on to the NFL draft. We want to attack the first round first, and then the teams.
Yeah.
Okay. So batting leadoff, the Carolina Panthers. Panthers traded up for the first pick after a better year than most expected last year. I would say, wouldn't you? Would you say it was a better year than
Yeah.
expected? Well,
Yeah.
given the quarterback situation.
I thought they would be the worst in the division.
Right. Um, and they were by far not, because the Saints were. But traded up with the Bears for the first pick in the draft, and I can say that it was fine. I don't know how much I love their pick, like we're back to talk about, but they took Bryce Young, the undisputed number one, analyst wise. He was their undisputed number one. Everybody knew he was going number one for the most part, without a surprise. And Bryce Young, Alabama, obviously, did not win the national championship as starting quarterback at Alabama, but um, he was the quarterback at Alabama nonetheless. So that's obviously holds its weight, and a very very decorated college career besides the natty part. So great quarterback, great player. Questions about him have been the size, have been the definitely not the athleticism. He has the athleticism. We know that. How long can he last in the NFL? Let's hear it.
Right.
Talk to me about
From a skill, when it comes to just talking about raw skill at the quarterback position, him and CJ Stroud to me are neck and neck. I think you could argue. Bryce Young, I would say, has slightly better. He's slightly more mobile. Arm strength, they're pretty close. You could argue Bryce Young is more accurate, but yeah, it really just comes down to Bryce Young is 5'10", 5'11".
it. I don't. It's listed as that, but I would not be surprised if he was an inch or two shorter than that.
The guy is practically my height out there. And that's okay. We've seen it work
Short
here and
kings,
there.
short kings
It happens.
will win someday.
Just at the quarterback position when you're standing behind guys who are 6'5", 6'6", every single one of them. You got D linemen who are 6'5", 6'6", trying to swat you. You're easier, in a sense, you're easier to tackle when you're that small. A guy like CJ Stroud, who's 6'3", he might not be as quick, light on his feet, but he's going to be able to dissect the defense. Bryce Young can, it'll be slightly more difficult. But I think you couldn't really go wrong with Young or Stroud. I don't think you can go wrong. They're both generational quarterbacks, in my opinion.
Right, and that's not my main concern. My main concern is not how good can they be. My concern is how long can Bryce Young last, and I don't mean that in oh God, hope he gets I don't wish injury on him, but at his stature, taking that beating every week. Because let's be honest, with the Panthers, they're decent. Like they're not great. they're a 9-8 team, 8-9 team. How many sacks is he going to take in a season? Because that O line's still not very good.
Yeah.
So he's going to take a lot of hits next year. Can he? I mean, can he last the whole season? That's to be determined. But overall, with the first pick, I did go C plus. I like the pick, but there's the negative outweighs the positive in my opinion, and that's where I went C plus. I can obviously he can make me a fool. Like in the next 9 months, he can make me a fool. But my opinion, it is a. I think there's a higher risk than reward with Bryce Young at the first.
Yeah, I would give him a B minus because I do think he's very good. He just got to
Oh,
stay healthy.
right. Um, so with the number 2 pick, the Houston Texans, they do take C.J. Stroud, which I was expecting. I feel like everybody was. They needed a quarterback. Davis Mills has not got the job done to this point. Um, so I had a feeling they were going there. Many thought they may go Will Anderson, but I thought there was way more underlying problems than just the defense. Man. And I love the pick, like we've talked about. And I know this sounds like I'm just a Bryce Young hater. I'm not. I think C.J. Stroud. I'm a C.J. Stroud truther. Like I love his game, and you can argue that he had great receiver around him. When you turn on the film and watch him play against Georgia, it is it shouldn't even be talked about that he's the best quarterback in the draft. Like I know Bryce Young has his moments and he's been great, but when you watch what he did to that Georgia defense that's been so good for the last 2 years, and no one has done that against, you could argue that Bryce Young did last SEC championship, but the way Stroud did it single handedly was super impressive to me, and he did it with his legs too, which people had questions about. Um, so I feel like that's definitely why he jumped up to number 2 overall, just because of his athleticism in that game. He beat Georgia. If it wasn't for, well, you could argue that if Marvin Harrison doesn't go down, or if if they don't make some stupid decisions on that last drive with trying to go for a field goal instead, he probably beats him. So C.J. Stroud to me is a beautiful pick at number 2. Love it. I think I went. I think I did go B plus because I don't think it's an A pick because I'm never going to give like unless it's just like Trevor Lawrence, he would have been an A plus pick just because like he's. I mean, you weren't going to miss with Trevor Lawrence. We knew that. There's still some questions with Stroud that he could miss, so he could still be a miss on the pick. So I did go B plus.
I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I'm higher on Stroud as well than Young. I think Stroud probably has the highest floor of all, the quarterbacks. You could even argue all the players. It's just is Houston going to put guys around him
Right.
that can make it easier for him? Because he's not used to not having talent. He's had Marvin Harrison. He's had Jackson Smith and Jigba. Just to name a couple.
And Houston's history of putting guys around quarterbacks, like they just took away DeAndre Hopkins one day while Deshaun Watson was still there, and just like, are they
Right,
going to buy in
they
to a
haven't
career?
had a capable receiver. I mean, Brandon Cooks, you could argue, but in the past few years, they haven't had guys to make it easy on their quarterback. So, as far as the actual pick, I would give him an A minus because I mean, there's a slight concern, but I think it's the better choice of the two quarterbacks. It's just now this can they put guys around him? As far as this pick, they made the right pick.
I agree. And next up is the Texans again after trading up with the Cardinals for a lot more of a haul than I expected. You asked me who I thought they would before we knew the details. I thought they would go a second and a fourth, or a next year second and a fourth. Um, and it was like a second, 2 seconds, or a first next year, something like that.
Um,
Get the details while I'm talking about this. But anyway, they did trade with the Cardinals for the third pick. I think it was a great deal for both teams because I think both
I got it
both
right here.
teams. Tell me the details.
So Houston gave up their 12th overall, so the first that they had, their second round pick, and then their 2024 first and 2024 third for the third
It's a
pick.
it's a it's a hefty load, um, without a doubt. And do I think okay? So I did go A minus on this pick because I do think it's a great pick. I think them buying in, them really going after a good team, getting Will Anderson right there, that's great. What concerns me is those two guys are not going to change the team in a season. Like they're not going to go from 2-15 to next year winning 12 games. They're just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. Even if CJ Stroud is the truth, like they don't have the wide receivers around him to do it and all that. So my kind of concern there is trading that first and third pick next year because I feel like if they stayed at 6 or whatever they were at, they could have picked up Jalen Carter. So like I feel like they could have not wasted a lot of that those picks because I feel like Jalen Carter would have still been available when they got the shot. So I mean, but they really wanted Will Anderson. They see something in Will Anderson, and you got to trust the team that trades all that for a third pick when they're sitting 3 picks behind that. And you got to think. I don't know that the Cardinals were going to take Will Anderson there because I think they really need offensive linemen. So they obviously saw something that they wanted in him, and they took him, and they got their 2 guys. So I mean, kudos to them. I think it's an A minus pick. I don't really think Will Anderson is a hit or miss. He can be average for a long time, or he can be really great for a long time. I don't think there's anywhere he'll be just atrocious. So I think it's great.
Yeah, as far as my thoughts, I'd give them a. I'm leaning B plus. They did give up a lot for him when there were other options. Like let's say if Will Anderson, I mean, they must think Will Anderson is going to be a lot better than Jalen Carter, which from a guy in the locker room, they're not. I mean, it's not crazy to think that he's a guy who can actually stay on the field. Where Jalen Carter, we've already seen the issues off the field.
Right. We've
So
had some
you
issues.
can't really blame them. They did give up a lot, so I can't give it like an A. But I think Will Anderson is an A caliber player in this
Right.
draft because the
Yeah, I
draft
agree.
overall, I wasn't super high on the top end of this draft. I think there was talent spread out, but I mean, for what they gave up, I'll go B plus for this pick.
Yeah, I agree totally. At the 4, the Colts took Anthony Richardson. Um, Many thought this may be Will Levis. Many thought it wouldn't be either. Like, and it wound up being Anthony Richardson. So, not a bad pick. The problem with me, okay, so I did grade this a C. You're gonna probably grade this higher because I think you're a little bit better, a little bit higher on Anthony Richardson than I am. Here's my problem with the Colts pick right here. At number 4, I feel like this is such a like you have to hit on this pick, and I feel like there's so much that could go wrong with this pick. Like when you look at Anthony Richardson's college resume, it's 13 games. He went 6-7. He lost to uh, Florida State. He lost to Oregon State. He lost to Georgia. All really good teams. But he also lost to Vanderbilt. So, is there crazy unlocked potential or locked up potential right now in his? Is a lot of it technique? That's to be determined. But at the 4 pick with the problems the Colts have had, and I don't feel like the Colts are too far. Like I don't feel like they're as a team. I don't feel like they're far from the playoffs. I feel like they're a quarterback away. So, with that being said, I don't hate the pick, but I just have a hard time buying in to a guy that hasn't had the greatest career in college and has had accuracy. This guy's passing efficiency was lower than DJ Uiagalelei's last year. Lower. That's my problem with it. That's my problem. So at the end of the day, um, can he make me look like an idiot in a few months? Obviously. And I hope he does. I hope he makes me look like a complete fool. But right now, I'm just a little more concerned than I am okay with this pick. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. The one thing that I do disagree with when it comes to Anthony Richardson throwing the ball, He didn't have any receiving help. He had Kyle Pitts when he wasn't starting
He had
for
a
what?
third rounder this year, Justin
Justin
Shorter,
Shorter.
yeah,
Justin Shorter is not a third round receiver. I'm sorry.
or four. It may not have been fourth. It may have been
I
later,
think he
but
was fourth, but regardless, Justin Shorter is not super talented. He had like Jacob Copeland, um, like, a lot less talent than these other quarterbacks at the top end had. Well, you could argue Will Levis didn't have great. He had Wandale Robinson for a little bit, but who was? I mean, he's not Jackson Smith and Jig, but he's not um, Jameson Williams. You know,
right.
these first round receivers. So I think that obviously I know the Colts don't have great receiving help already. They did. We'll talk about Josh Downs, who they got a little later in the draft. Josh Downs and Michael Pittman Jr., who I think is very solid. I mean, Michael Pittman's going to be the best guy Richardson's had all year. Not to mention Anthony Richardson with his legs is by far the best quarterback we've seen in a while since Lamar Jackson, I would argue. He might even. I mean, I think he's on that same level. Just the way he can kick it up
The
into.
problem with me is Lamar didn't have amazing receivers either, but what he did with his legs was insane. And I don't know if he had that. He had that kind of. He has that kind of ability. Like I think he has amazing ability, but what Lamar did in college with the roster he had around him, I think it was pretty impressive.
It was. I'm not, and I mean, like, obviously, I'm not comparing Anthony Richardson to Lamar Jackson in a way. Lamar Jackson definitely got a lot better as a passer. Also, as he got into the NFL, as he got targets around him like Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews. To sum it all up, I think Anthony Richardson. I mean, they needed a quarterback. They took the risk with the guy with the highest upside. Could it not pay off? Of course. Could it just be another? I mean, how many times have we seen the Colts miss on a quarterback? Or do the other route, go with the old veteran who's washed and he's terrible? I like that they're trying to change it up. They're getting a high energy electric guy and they're putting guys around him already in the same draft. I'm gonna give this a minus for the Anthony Richardson pick.
Wow.
I'm high on Richardson. I think he'll be good.
At the 5, I'm not gonna go deep into this. I gave this a B just because it's a position filler. It's the best guy on the board, and with the 5, the Seahawks got Devin Witherspoon. So like it's a great pick. It's what they needed. They got what they needed, and they got the best one. So I mean, I'm not gonna ever argue that pick. He's gonna be a good talent in the league. He may be a great talent in the league. I hope he is. But at the end of the day, it's a B pick for me. It's a mellow pick. It's what they had.
Yeah, B plus for me. I mean, Witherspoon's the best cornerback, like you said. I don't really. I mean, the Seahawks really could have went any way with this. Like they weren't gonna go. I mean, I guess they could have gone a defensive end, but I mean, no real reason to. I think they just did what they took the best player available, which you could argue was Jalen Carter, but I think Witherspoon's fine. So B plus.
At 6, the Cardinals traded down and got this pick, and they got who I think they wanted all along. They got some protection for Kyler Murray, which was big for them. When you pay a quarterback that much, you got to get some protection for him. He's coming off a torn ACL, so he is going to need that kind of protection. So Paris Johnson Jr. was the pick. I gave it an A minus. Like people may not be how. I mean, I'm sure everybody's fine with this pick. I gave it an A minus because I'm excited about this pick. I think it was a great Cardinals. You know, they've been kind of questionable the last few years. So I love the pick. I really do. I like the pick a lot.
I'm gonna go A minus as well. Not so much for the pick, but the fact that they were able to trade down because they traded down from the 3rd and then they traded back up to the 6th and only gave up that 34th. They still had the 33rd, I believe. Yeah, they still had the 33rd pick, so they basically swapped those. Yeah, I think the way that they maneuvered it and still got a very good guy who's going to help more than. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to help more than a guy like Will Anderson would, but you can never go wrong taking an offensive tackle.
No doubt, no
So,
doubt, no doubt.
I'll go A minus for that.
Without a doubt. So in the 7, Tyree Wilson to the Raiders. I like it. I mean, he's going to be a very good talent. I'd argue he's up there with Will Anderson, in my opinion. I like his film. He just didn't go to Alabama. I mean, I think if that guy goes to Alabama, he may be one of the top 3 picks. So, and I know that sounds stupid because the NFL doesn't really care about that, but it does carry some weight. You talk about Alabama and what they've produced in the past few years. So Tyree Wilson, I gave it a B minus. I mean, I think it was a great pick, but I don't really know that the Raiders needed that, if that makes any sense. Like I don't think that was a super major need, but I love the pick.
I was gonna go B. I mean, him or Jalen Carter would have both been great picks. Me personally, I think Carter's better, but once again, no real reason to sway away and go, a guy bigger, longer arms than Tyree Wilson. Did have some injury in college, but he'll be fine in the league. So I'll go B.
Next up is arguably one of the more controversial picks in the whole draft. As the draft was coming up, you kind of felt the Falcons were gonna, like in the upcoming or the last few months, you felt the Falcons were gonna go DN. They were gonna go Tyree Wilson. They were gonna go Jalen Carter. And as the draft got here, and the day of the draft, things just shifted towards Bijan Robinson. And so, like, I kind of had that feeling that they were going to take him. So they did, and I rated it a D. Hate this pick. Not because of the player that Robinson is. Don't get me wrong. I think he is going to be a superstar in the league. Here's why I give it a D. Because the running back is arguably the least important position on offense at this moment in time in the current NFL. It matters none because every team throws the ball. Falcons, they are old school. They are an old school offense, so running back matters a lot to them. You have a 1,000-yard rusher. You have Cordero Patterson. You have 2 guys that can get the job done already. Maybe not superstar level, which we've seen Patterson have some success, a lot of success in Atlanta. I don't like this pick because I feel like you could have went Jalen Carter. Like, your defense has been your problem. Like, you've scored a fine amount of points. You've given up millions in the past 5 years. Like, you have no defensive success in the last few years. Why not take Jalen Carter? I know they've done a ton of free agents. They got Okudah. They got all these guys on the D line. Jalen Carter would have solidified that defense. You would have had a great defense. I would have said that defense is great. I would have drafted them in fantasy. They would have been one of my favorite defenses. But you took Bijan Robinson. That's why I'm giving it a D. If he would have went to the Eagles, that's an A-plus pick for me. But with it being the Falcons, with them having 2 running backs, I hate it.
Right. I think just off the rip, I'm gonna go C minus. I do think Bijan Robinson is one of the better running backs that we've seen in a while. Maybe since Saquon Barkley, who was drafted, was he 4th to the Giants?
He was high. I don't know exactly what he was.
I think he was 4th. Yeah, I think Bijan Robinson is cut from that same cloth. Big guy, super fast. I mean, if you've seen him at Texas, then you know. Yeah, but
Barkley was taken 2nd.
He was 2nd? I thought he was 4th. Okay, 2nd. Anyways, too much good to say about Robinson. The issue here is the fit. You got Atlanta, a team. I understand, they're run-heavy squads, most run-heavy team in the NFL. They draft, the best running back. I don't see an issue with it. It's, it makes sense to the brain. But again, running backs are like, you get 4 to 5 years out of one, and then they're gone. We see it with Chris.
And they're leaving after you lose control of their contract. They're gone. Like,
not only are they leaving, but their value just slowly. It's like it's like a car. Once you buy a car, the value just slowly, yeah. It's like with that. I mean, they could have even. I wouldn't have even hated if they went quarterback here.
Right.
I mean,
I wouldn't have hated Will Levis here.
I was going to say, A Will Levis wouldn't have made me that mad.
Because at the end of the day, how good is Desmond Ritter going to be? If Desmond Ritter isn't good, how good is Taylor Heineke going to be? I don't like the pick. And I
Yeah,
feel like, I mean, you have Jalen Carter sitting here. That's my biggest problem. Jalen Carter, to me, is the best overall player in the draft. There's no one, I mean, I know there's some issues off the field. Like, I get that. But at the end of the day, he's a hometown kid. He's at Georgia. You know, he's right there. He's in your fingertips, and you go running back. I don't like the direction this Falcons team has gone. Their offenses were electric with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Why not go back to that? I know Arthur Smith is a running back truther, but my God, man, you got to make a change. And I don't like. I mean, I hope Bijan Robinson is the next Adrian Peterson. I hope he's the next Jamal Charles in his prime. But what happened to Jamal Charles? Where's he at? You know, like that wasn't that long ago that he was Mr. Superstar. So running backs at the end of the day are not as valuable as they used to be. Um, I just don't like it at 8. We've seen what has happened to people that take running backs at 8. So
yeah.
that's my overall.
So I got what I got C plus or C minus, C minus.
C minus. Yeah. So at 9, this speaks for itself. Jalen Carter to the Eagles. I went A plus. I think it's the best pick in the draft. That's my best pick in the draft. My favorite pick in the draft. They traded up one so they could get him. But like, dude, the Eagles just keep getting better and better and better. They were 4 points away from winning the Super Bowl. There is no doubt they will be the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. And man, that defense just keeps getting better and better. But I love the pick. It's my favorite pick in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. A plus for me as well. This is just the
I don't
best.
even
I
think
mean, this guy was getting mocked number 1 all the way up until the off field issues started. So
Right.
as long as, and I mean, the Eagles, if there's any culture who I feel like can keep a guy in check, seeing that amount of success that the Eagles have gone, I mean, that's got to keep them focused on football. So yeah, I'm cool with it. A plus.
Right. Yeah. And then at 10, the Bears took Darnell Wright. Like I said, I know it's boring. I did go with an A minus here. It is a boring pick, but it's what they needed. Justin Fields ran for his life all year last year. We saw some things from Justin Fields that were very, very good to see. And they have their guy. So now they have to protect their guy. And I love this pick at 10. I think it's the right pick. I think it's what they needed.
Yeah, I went A minus as well. No need. I mean, this is what we were all expecting. Maybe not Darnell Wright specifically, but with just one of those offensive linemen, because that's the biggest need for the Bears. So they took their biggest need. No issue with it.
Yep, me too. At 11, the Titans took Peter Skoronski.
Skoronski.
I don't hate the pick. My problem is, what are they doing? Like, I mean, I'm fine with it. I gave it a B minus. Like, it's a great pick just because he's a great, great offensive lineman. I think he's gonna be very good in the future. But like, it just feels weird. Like, I feel like they need more than that. Like, they don't even have a receiver, dude. Their best receiver is what? Buddy from Arkansas.
Traylon Burks.
Yeah, Treylon Burks. Is that their best receiver? That's all they got.
And Robert Woods, but I don't.
He's gone.
He's not there anymore.
No,
Yeah,
he's with
I
Texas.
mean,
I think.
I don't know. I feel like Skoronski was probably best player available on a. I mean, the Titans need everything beside a running back, so I don't hate the pick. I would give it a B plus. They could have traded down for a receiver and got some value out of the pick, but I mean, no need. No, again, you can't ever go wrong drafting an O lineman. So
You can't. And at the end of the day, when they made their next pick, this pick made a lot more sense to me. So,
right.
so I don't hate it, but at the end, it's just a little confusing to me. But
I'll go B plus.
I went B minus. At 12 was arguably the worst pick in the draft in the first round. The Lions go with Jameer Gibbs at 12. This guy was projected to be a late first rounder, if a first rounder at all. So, like, why are the Lions getting him? I mean, yes, later on in the draft they did trade away DeAndre Swift, so it makes a little more sense. But at the end of the day, why Gibbs at 12? I don't think the Packers, Steelers, Jets, Commanders, Patriots, Bucks. I don't think any of them are dying to get a running back. Like, I don't think any of them would have just selected a running back. So why are you trading? I mean, why are you taking him there? Because you have another pick at 18, and that makes a little more sense. But at the end of the day, it took him. I give it a D minus. I don't like the pick. I don't love the pick. I think he's a great running back. I don't love the pick. It's same thing. They're not very valuable.
Yeah, I would go just D based on the trade. If they didn't make the trade for DeAndre Swift, I would have given it an F. Because there's just no way Gibbs is better than Swift or Montgomery. They did trade Swift, so now you got the 1-2 punch with Montgomery. Because the Lions love to run two guys. Trust me, my fantasy team found that out the hard way. Even though
Yes.
we were successful, when DeAndre Swift started lacking, they're quick to go two guys. So D, I don't know. I just think if you wanted a running back so bad, why not take? If I'm not mistaken, okay, I'm crazy. Why not trade up to get Robinson?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's 6 spots. How much are you really gonna give up? And I don't think they're that far.
Four
If they want
spots. It was
Bijan,
4 spots.
yeah, 4 spots. Excuse me.
Like
Um,
I think Bijan Robinson. No offense to Jameer Gibbs, I think he was my second favorite running back. I think he'll be a solid NFL running back. But
but Bijan has superstars.
make the trade. At least do like. I get the Lions are kind of trying to transition into win now, but I don't know. So I mean, you just I already didn't like the Falcons pick. This pick is even worse because it's not a superstar caliber running back. I think it's a. I don't know if Jameer Gibbs has even Pro Bowl potential.
I agree. I think he's a little undersized too. In my
I
opinion.
think he's all right, but I think he's a good. I don't know. Just not a guy I'm really high on. So D for the Lions pick here.
And we'll kind of skim through these last because they're not like we'll really get into like the ones we love, but like these picks aren't super exciting. Like Lucas Van Ness for the Packers, I put C plus. I don't mind it. I feel like there's more needs there. I would have probably taken a wide receiver there.
Yeah, I'd
Would
go
have
B
probably.
minus for Van Ness. He's decent.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good. I think he'll be a Packer for a long time. But at 14, the Steelers took Broderick Jones. Love this pick. My Steelers. I gave it a B. I think it's a great pick. They need offensive line. Need to protect Kenny Pickett. So like, great pick. You can't go wrong with offensive line like we talked about.
Yeah, I'd go B plus for this pick. I like it a lot.
At 15, this one was just the Jets don't really have any holes to me. Like I would have taken another superstar receiver just for fun, but like they took Will McDonald. They got better. He'll be a good NFL player. I went B minus just because he's not super exciting, but I feel like the Jets don't have many holes with the recent trades.
Yeah, I'd go C plus. I think there was ends, better edge rushers than McDonald, but I mean he was very good at Iowa State. So in a tough conference. So I don't hate it.
At 16, Emmanuel Forbes to the Commanders, C minus pick here. Commanders just are a dumpster fire. They have no idea what they're doing right now. Sam Howell's going into the year as the only quarterback. I really hate what they're doing. I don't like taking a corner right here when you have way bigger needs.
Oh yeah,
So,
I went. Sorry, finish up.
I would have went Will Levis here, but I went C minus.
I would go D minus even. I mean, they got a super small, scrawny corner where they didn't need to upgrade at. Like you said, they had Christian Gonzalez. They had Joey Porter even, who were both better. They had Will Levis, who is a need that they needed more arguably obviously than a corner. So just this to me is worse than Jameer Gibbs' pick because at least Jameer Gibbs will. I don't know. I think the Lions wanted a running back, so they took a running back. But there was no other running back around him. There was Christian Gonzalez and Joey Porter right there, or even Will Levis. There was just so many other ways they could have went. So
Yeah, I agree. I
D
agree.
minus for the Commanders.
Wholeheartedly. 17 Patriots, Christian Gonzalez. They always get the perfect player falling into their lap. Like it never fails that they know what everybody else is thinking. They wanted Christian Gonzalez, and they knew they could trade with the Steelers for the fall back to 17, and they knew they could get Christian Gonzalez. Like they always know what everybody's thinking. So like, incredible coaching staff, dude. Like great pick, B plus. Like they wanted that guy. They knew they could get him and get some value, so they did it, and that's incredible.
Yeah, I'd go A minus for this pick.
You were very big on Christian Gonzalez.
I
Like
really,
texted me several
I
times.
thought Gonzalez was the second best corner. Great size, played at Oregon. I know they were saying he's a top 10 talent. He's arguably you could argue him and Joey Porter are neck and neck. Witherspoon's slightly better, but I think for the value that you got a DB at for the Patriots, even now the Patriots didn't really. I don't think they needed a DB, but when it's best player available and he's there, you can't go wrong. So I would go at A minus.
Yeah, I agree. Now at the 18th pick, Lions took Jack Campbell. I went B minus here. I love the pick. I think he's going to be a very good talent in the NFL. Just a boring pick, just something they needed, and I like the pick overall.
Yep, I go B minus as well. It's just linebacker. Linebacker is not a huge value position.
19. How you pronounce that? Kalijah Cansey.
Glad you can't see.
Kalijah Cansey. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Buccaneers took him at 19. I gave it a B because he's a fine player. I think he'd be really good. I think he'd be talented. Whatever. What are the Bucs doing? I mean, you need a quarterback. I can't emphasize this enough. I'm not a Will Levis truther. I've never been big on it. But why not take a chance at 19 as at one of the best quarterbacks on the board? Why not? The best quarterback left. You have Baker Mayfield. What do you have to lose? Take him. I like the pick as far as the player goes. I don't like the pick as far as the team. I don't like the fit. So I'm going B, but
Yeah, I'd go B minus. I mean, Buccaneers' run defense was solid. They're going to be a defensive-oriented team now with no Brady. But again, I think they should have went offense here. I mean, you see the receivers are about to start going. They didn't take a receiver. I guess they didn't really need a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Or they could have gone O-lineman. They should have gone quarterback, but Kansas is all right. So.
At 20, we'll skim through these last ones. This is one of my favorite picks in the draft, like top 5. Jackson Smith-Njigba to the Seahawks. I love this pick. I gave it an A. With Geno's emergence, having Metcalf, having, I guess, Lockett's still a guy. But Smith-Njigba, adding that into the mix, that makes it a whole different offense. And if he can be the talent that we think he can be, this Seahawks offense will get even better. Not crazy about Geno. I know he had a great year last year. I don't know if he can keep that up. But he got a receiver to do it. So they're going to give him every opportunity. And I love that pick.
I'm going B just with the injury concern. I think Smith-Njigba is probably the best receiver in the class when healthy. I mean, actually, he's undoubtedly, in my opinion. It's just, can he stay healthy? Also, to a team that doesn't need receiver, they have 2 Pro Bowl caliber guys, but so he's the best receiver on the board if healthy. So I'm going B.
At 21, Can you do something for me, Chargers? And they took Quentin Johnston. A little questionable with Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison still on the board. And they have Mike Williams, who I feel like is fairly similar. Not necessarily the ability to catch the ball, but the size and the stature. And I went A minus because I like the pick. I like the player. I don't really like the fit. I'm going to change my pick to a B plus because A minus is a little too high for that. So I am going with a B plus there for Zay Flowers. God, for Quentin Johnson. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd go B minus. I don't think Johnson was the best receiver here. They did they needed a third, and they got him. I think he's solid, so I can't really hate on the pick. Actually, I'm gonna downgrade it to C plus. I just think Jordan Addison was better, or Zay Flowers for that
I
matter,
agree.
for the fit.
I was really wanting the Steelers to take Jordan Addison, but I think there was bigger needs there. But Addison went to. Oh wait, I forgot to talk about Zay Flowers. Ravens took Zay Flowers. I'm giving this a B plus. I do have some concerns on his size, but I don't have concerns on his athleticism and his ability. I think he's a great shifty, quick receiver for Lamar to get the ball. You know they love to throw like slants. They're very good about quick game. So I think he fits the offense better than any receiver fits any other offense. But I think he fits any better. So I did go B plus here. I like the play. I like the play a lot. And with Odell and Bateman and whoever else they've signed, God knows. Antonio Brown said he was going to the Ravens, and the Ravens didn't agree. So God knows what's going to happen there. But anyway, as long as they can keep him Zay stays on the field, keep him happy because he does seem like he has a little bit of an attitude problem. But that comes with playing with a bad team at BC. You're probably going to get that out of a lot of people. So I think the Ravens might be they may be favored over the Bengals this year. Anyway, I love the pick. I'm going B plus.
Yeah, I would go B plus or A minus as well. Super quick guy, and he did all this with basically no quarterback. So that's really all I got to say. I feel like.
Yeah. I do need to interrupt this for this message. Bryce Harper has been cleared to play Tuesday in LA. I know this is an NFL draft, but we like to talk about this. He is playing. He is DHing tomorrow night in LA.
Yeah.
There's a great thing that me and Darren are looking very excited for. We have not announced on the podcast yet, so that announcement will be coming soon. Why we care so much about that. But anyway, moving on to the 23rd pick in the NFL draft, Jordan Addison goes to the Vikings. They just add to the mix of incredible talent. You pair Jordan Addison with Justin Jefferson, gosh, the Vikings are winning right now. Great pick right here. I'm moving it up to an A. I love the pick right here.
I'd go A minus, just as good as Zay Flowers to me. Did they need a receiver? I guess with Adam Thielen gone, yeah. So I'm cool with it.
At 24, the Giants took what they needed. They needed a corner. They got Deontay Banks. He's a B. I gave him a B. He's a pick. Just feel the need. Not gonna wow you. Not gonna. I'm not super excited, obviously. So I went B here. I'm excited.
I'd go B plus for Banks. He's solid. And
then Dalton Kincaid, one of the more questionable picks in the first round for the Bills, with them having Dawson Knox. So, they took him at 25. B minus for me. Don't love the pick, but I do love that he's getting into an offense. I think he's going to be more of a run, blocking tight end. But I don't mind it in that offense.
I'd go here. C plus, because I think Kincaid is a solid receiver, and they weren't going to get a tight end at any other time because there was the Cowboys who were probably going to take him. So they traded up to get him. The fit I'm kind of worried about. They have Dawson Knox, so.
Cowboys at 26 took Mazi Smith. I think that's how you pronounce that. Sure, yeah. It's a B pick for me. They filled a need. Like I said, like all these round teams do. They feel what they needed, and they got a defensive tackle. So I don't mind the pick. Like you just said, I think they would have taken a tight end. I think they would have taken Kincaid had he been there. So I like the pick right here. It's a fine pick to me.
Yeah, I go B minus. Solid rusher at Michigan. Um, Cowboys, they love taking defense, so we'll go B minus there.
At 27, Anton Harrison to the Jaguars. Don't really know much about this pick. I mean, it's a B to me. I don't hate it. I think it's fulfilling a need, just like all these teams do. So it's a fine pick to me. I want to B.
I'd go B plus as well. Jaguars need offensive line to protect Lawrence with some guys leaving over the offseason. So I like it.
Yeah.
B plus.
Yeah, I like it too. 28, my Clemson Tiger. Miles Murphy goes to the Bengals. Stays in the Tiger family. B plus right here. Best player on the board. Before some just questions came up about him, he was projected in the top 10. So to get a player like that at 28 is a great pick, obviously. I think they kind of fulfilled a need. I think they needed a guy. I think they needed a defensive lineman that could rush the passer. And they got a great one. A really, really talented and size wise, really good. Really great size wise. So I really like the pick here. B plus.
I'd go A minus. I think the value they got on this was ridiculous. And I think if the Bengals can really tap into Murphy's potential, I mean, he could be just as good as a Jalen Carter, even, in my opinion.
He's got the size to do it. There's no doubt. At 29, another Clemson, back-to-back Clemson guys. Brian C. He's had a lot of stuff off the field. It's just been, it's terrible for his family. It's terrible for him. He's been through a lot, but he did get drafted to the Saints. I gave it a B minus. Don't really know, I don't know who the Saints could have taken. Levis maybe. I keep throwing that name out there because a lot of these guys need quarterbacks. Will Levis they just may not see anything in Will Levis because all these teams would have taken had they seen anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't mind the pick. Kind of questionable taking a defensive lineman when you have so many needs and money is a problem. Like you would think you'd take a offensive guy that you could not have to pay a ton of money and you could get some value out of him. But I don't mind the pick. I mean, I think it's great value at 29 because he was a top 10 pick before he didn't play the last 5 games at Clemson last year. So,
yeah, Breesy, I'll go B. Yeah, I'll B. It's the Saints. The Saints have had a lot of defensive guys, kind of leave with, the team kind of going downhill, kind of entering that rebuild. So, but again, I think, like you said, he's a top 10 talent in his draft. And so whenever you get the chance to add him, I mean, you're dumb not to. So, B.
right. And at 30 and 31, Nolan Smith to the Eagles at 30. I gave it a C plus. Like I told you when we talked about all this. I love the personality. I love the player that he is. I love he's a great guy, it seems. I love the pick. I know the Eagles got a little, bulldog heavy and they draft him. I don't mind it. But my problem is he really like going to be a great pass rusher at the size that he is? That's my concern with him. I think he definitely has the brain for it. I think that's why they took him because I think he's like a general on the field. But I do have some size concerns, and will he get beat up a lot? That's my problem with him. I don't hate the pick.
I'll go B plus. I think Smith is one of the higher IQ guys on the defensive end. Was a part of a ridiculous defense at Georgia, which could have kind of helped his numbers. I'm hearing a lot of comparisons to Hassan Reddick, a smaller guy, quick off the line, and we see what Hassan Reddick has been able to do. So is Smith going to turn into that same type of player? Who knows? But I think he has all the potential in the world. So I'm going to go B plus.
At 31, the Chiefs took Felix Anudike,
Bro,
Ozama. Like, I don't even know who this cat is, if I'm being honest. Like, I watched his highlights to kind of judge. He looks like a fine player. He was on a pretty good Kansas State defense. So I like the pick overall. I went B just because I feel like the Chiefs just draft a guy every year. I mean, it doesn't even matter. Like, you never hear from them. They just get on that defense and just try to get the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. Like, that's all he's gonna do. So it's a fine pick. They could have taken me, and no one would have cared. So congrats, you're going to win a Super Bowl. I mean, so it is what it is. Great pick, whatever. B.
I'll go C plus because yeah, I'm not too familiar with Felix, but I think you can never add too many defensive linemen, and he was in the Big 12. Um, so yeah, it should be fine.
Yeah, I think it'd be plenty fine. So now we'll move on to team grades, and what I think we'll do here is we'll cover everybody, not as because a lot of teams didn't even have really a draft at all. So I think we'll just go with our best teams to start off, and then we'll just kind of go over the ones that don't really, we're not really flattered with or whatever. So you can lead us off.
So first team I wanted to talk about. I mean, team you could argue had the best draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, Broderick Jones in the first round. They added Joey Porter, who I mean I don't know how he was able to fall to the second round. Really, I think he was in that conversation. Maybe not with Witherspoon, but he could have gone at the same time of any Emmanuel Forbes or Christian Gonzalez. So I think just off those first two, they also added Darnell Washington in the late third round. You got your receiving threat in Fryermuth, and then you add a great blocker in Darnell Washington. So I think the Steelers smashed the draft, and then they had an A plus in terms of draft grade for me.
Yeah, and I think this is the one moment, like, every time I talk about one of my teams on here, you love to say I'm a homer. This is one of the first times, like, you've agreed with me. They had the best draft. I think they got a new GM, like this is a new guy. He smashed the draft. He did a great job. Fantastic. Got every need and even more. Like, they didn't need a tight end, but when you can get Darnell Washington at the time they did, like, why not just snag him and see it? Like, even if he doesn't work out catching the ball, he'd be a dang good offensive tackle. Like, I know Georgia fans don't like to hear that because he's hurdled a guy and he had pretty good success with Georgia. But at the end of the day, the dude would be a nasty offensive tackle, and I would not be surprised to see the Steelers turn him into one. So, great pick there. I think there's just so much versatility that you can do with him, and I love that pick. That's probably one of my favorite picks in the draft. But they took Broderick Jones. They took guys they needed. It was fantastic. Filled the holes, and I think the Steelers team's getting better and better. So they've been a lot boring in the last few years. So it'd be fun to see them have some success deep in the playoffs. Anyway, moving on.
Are you gonna pick one, or am I just picking teams?
I can go. My next favorite, and you hated me for saying this. I love what the Seahawks did. I feel like they kind of had the same thing that the Steelers did. I feel like they filled their holes, but they got Smith and Jigba when they really didn't need it. I love that. I love when teams fill their holes with guys that they know that can do the job, and then they get that extra spice on it. They get that little extra guy that they didn't need, but he's gonna make a huge difference in that offense. And I love what the Seahawks did. A minus for me. They're my second favorite draft. I'm sorry. I know the Colts and Texans blew the waters away. I love the Seahawks.
I mean, okay. First off, to just throw that out the window, you said I clowned you. I gave them a B plus. I think they had a great draft, and a lot of that is from us giving them the fifth overall pick.
Right.
They just get a guy who. Witherspoon's going to be great. Not only did we give him the fifth pick, we gave him the sixth pick, and we gave him their second round pick and their fourth round pick. So We basically gave them this great draft, so they should be thinking Denver. But I mean, they had a great draft with what they had. Witherspoon's the best corner in the draft. They added the best receiver in the draft. I mean, I think it's a great draft. There's nothing I can. I mean, I just can't give them an A. There was many picks that I feel like they missed on. Zach Charbonnet, I don't know why they drafted a running back. Derek Hall from Auburn, not super familiar with. They did add an O lineman and Anthony Bradford from LSU, but for the most part, they did what they needed to do. They added the best players available, so I can't be mad at it.
I agree. I think it was. I mean, obviously I agree. It was one of my favorites. But you can go ahead with somebody you want to point out.
We've already talked about the Eagles. I don't really feel like because a lot of the Eagles' success came from that first round. The next team I want to talk about is the Giants. Not only did the Giants add Deontay Banks in that first round, they added guys that they needed and who will contribute early. And I mean, we just saw this team make the playoffs, and they only got better. They added Deontay Banks. They added John Michael Schmidt's O-line help that they desperately needed to protect Barkley and Daniel Jones. They added Jalen Hyatt also, which this team might have one of the worst receiving corps in the NFL. I mean, we had Isaiah Hodgins playing significant playoff snaps. Isaiah Hodgins. Don't get me wrong, he was solid. But Jalen Hyatt is that deep threat that they were lacking. I mean, they had Darius Slayton, who had catching problems, Sterling Shepard in and out the lineup, Richie James. I mean, come on. Love the draft though from the New York Giants, and I give it an A. I think they smashed the draft.
Yeah, I gave it a B plus. I love the draft. Like they're not on par with some of the teams just because of their success. Like that happens once you get better. Your draft's not going to be on par with these terrible teams because they got so much better because they added players they needed. You just filled hole. And I love that they got Jalen Hyatt where they did. That was a great pick to me. Love that pick. Kind of scares me because he did fall that far. I didn't feel like he would. But overall, I think it's a great pick. I'm going to go off with another NFC team. One of my favorites. Like I said, you're going to notice a trend with my team. Vikings. What did they do? They filled their holes. They sprinkled that spice on there. Give me Jordan Addison. Give me Justin Jefferson. You don't have to worry about Kirk Cousins being Kirk Cousins because I can throw the ball to them cats. Like, that team's ridiculous. That offense is ridiculous. You got Dalvin Cook in the backfield. Come on, man. That team, they got Hawkinson at tight end. Boy, I love what the Vikings did. They didn't even – I don't care if they had another pick in the whole draft. Jordan Addison at 23 is ridiculous. Somebody should find the other teams for not taking him at 21 and 22. So, great pick. Love what the Vikings did. Overall, they were one of my favorites.
Yeah. I mean, the final team who I feel like really smashed the draft, I mean, I really like what the Colts did. I hate to, ponder on the Colts because we've seen the Colts be very bad with decision-making recently. But they got Anthony Richardson, who I loved, and then they got guys to help him. I talked about Josh Downs earlier. Great receiver at North Carolina. Questions about his size, but I mean, he could be your T.Y. Hilton for the future. Julius Brents, they got a corner from Kansas State. I mean, a Big 12 corner. They got that pick from Atlanta. So just adding some more defensive help. You can never have enough corners. You can never have enough secondary. Let me not say corner.
Right. Secondary. A lot of guys in the secondary get hurt throughout the year, and it's never bad to have that depth in the secondary.
They had a lot of late round guys who, I mean, Evan Hull, I'm familiar with from Northwestern, decent running back. Will Mallory, a tight end from Miami, decent, just decent prospects. But I feel like what they did at the top half of this draft was very, guys who can all help them, perform now and only get better.
Yeah, my last team I'm going to shout out is it's the Texans. Like, it's kind of like your Colts. I think they got who they wanted. I think they did enough to make them. Now, don't get it regarded. No. When you talk about the Colts and Texans, they're not going to be a playoff team, and they're not. Neither of these teams are going to be able to win a division for a while, just because of the way the Jaguars have trended up since just last year. Like this division is going to be ran by the Jaguars for the next good amount of time. Like, there may be a year or two when one of these other teams wins it, but that's going to be ran by the Jaguars. Don't get it twisted. But what the Texans did is they got who they think is their guy. I love that pick. I love CJ Stroud. Like I said, I love Will Anderson at 3. Arguably you could have kept your pick and got him, or not him, but a defense player on that level. But overall, just filling needs and getting better, I felt like they were the team that got, besides the Steelers, got the most better through this draft, in my opinion. Because you got a quarterback that's going to be semi-ready when he gets up there. I don't know that Anthony Richardson is going to be ready next year. Richardson is going to be ready next year. But I think he will somewhat be ready, and he will get the job from day one. And so kudos to them. I do we're going to go over, we only have a few more minutes, but I do want to shout out my worst team in the draft. My most annoyed. Well, I got two teams that I'm most annoyed with. Not necessarily my lowest rated, but just two guys. Like, what are we doing? Like, my first worst team in the draft is the Buffalo Bills. What are you doing? Why are we taking a tight end in the first round? Out of all the players, you don't have many holes. You were the 3 seed last year behind the Bengals and Chiefs, or you were the 2 seed. Excuse me, you were only behind the Chiefs, the best team in the world. Why are we taking a tight end? We don't have a tight end problem. You don't have a tight end problem.
Is this
So
the 49ers?
why are you taking? Huh?
This is the 49ers we're talking about?
No, the Bills.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Sorry.
2 seed in the AFC. What in the heck are we taking a tight end in the first round for? You're in the 3rd round. You see Darnell Washington on the board, like the Steelers. That's an amazing pick. You didn't see the Steelers jump and get a tight end and reach for a tight end in the first round. They didn't need that. You did not need that with Dawson Knox. Tight end, unless you have Travis Kelce, does not mean super much. Everybody else is just average. You don't have to try. I mean, Kincaid, no disrespect to him, but he's going to be another Dawson Knox. He's not going to be a Travis Kelce. He's not. We don't have anybody in the league that can be that good right now. And he's not going to be. Nobody can be that. So when they just make me so mad with picks like that I hate the overall draft. They didn't feel their needs. They didn't do anything that I thought they should have done. And maybe that's selfish for me to think that, because they know their organization better than I do, obviously. But at the end of the day, I hate it. They didn't get nobody worth talking about. So, Bills, I have a Bills shirt. I like the Bills. I like to watch them play, but I'm not excited to watch Dalton, whatever his name is, Kincaid, to play football. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm just not.
All right. I'll just throw out a team. The Washington Commanders. I mean, don't get me. I've already kind of got off them on them for the horrible first round pick that they made when they had Will Levis just sitting there chilling. But not only that's not even. Let's just say, Will Levis. We see him. He doesn't have tremendous athleticism, or maybe there's an attitude problem with him. Cool. They didn't take a quarterback for the whole draft. They took 2 DBs back to back. Don't get me wrong. I said you can't have enough DB, and this is a team that could use some. But, guys, we have Sam Howell throwing the football. Sam Howell.
Thank you.
He looked good in a Week 18 matchup against the Cowboys.
Who had every player out because the Eagles had already won that day.
Like, that's not to mention. I mean, they had some decent picks outside of that. It's just the lack of urgency. Like, don't get me wrong, they weren't gonna win now anyway. In this division, they weren't gonna win regardless. But like, guys, it's just frustrating, and especially I'm in the area, so I have to hear it. I have to hear it from
Right.
Commanders fans.
And you know
So,
they're upset. I was gonna go Commanders with my second team, but I'll just throw another team out there. And when I say this, I don't mean these teams are gonna be terrible next year. Like the Bills are obviously not gonna be bad. They just made bad decisions in my opinion. But oh God, sorry. He'll be fine. Ronald Acuna got hit up in the end, and I thought he was hurt bad. He looked like he is. Anyway, my next team that I hate, the draft, the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow had taken off all the time last year. Joe Burrow is top 3 quarterback in the NFL. And what do? Oh, well, we're just not going to take an O lineman in the whole draft. No offensive lineman. That's what the rounds 4 through 7 are for, offensive linemen if you need them. Take a dang offensive lineman. You know how many 6th-round offensive linemen have turned into all pros? Like, way more than any other position. So why in the world do you not take an offensive lineman? Do you think you don't have a problem? Joe Burrow probably thinks you have a problem. His future wife and kids probably think you have a problem. His whole family thinks you have a problem. So why don't you figure it out and draft an O lineman? It's not going to kill you to draft an O lineman. It's really not. Like, if they miss, they miss. And you can find 6 O linemen that do the same job on the free agency. Like 47-year-old guys who just put their name on there that can block a little bit. Like, that's what you look like. You got a bunch of 5 guys out there that can't do anything. So at the end of the day, I'm just really disappointed. I'm not necessarily just hate what they did. I like the pick with Myles Murphy. I'm just disappointed in their late round.
I mean, the final team I'm gonna just touch on is the Falcons. Outside of the poor first round decision that they made to go with Robinson, they needed a receiver. I mean, they needed a lot. They needed a receiver. They didn't take a receiver. They took 2 O linemen. One of them in the second round, Matthew Bergeron. I like. They didn't take another one to the 7th round. And they took 1 corner, who I think Clark Phillips, the 3rd from Utah. He'll probably be solid. I don't know if he'll play much this first year, but I think he'll be decent. Overall, the Falcons just missed really bad. I don't know, man. They need a lot, so it's kind of hard to say they should be picking this over that. But, I mean, the quarterback's the most important position. To be fair, I guess Ritter hasn't had a ton of time to show whether he's the guy or not, but you can always draft. You can always draft one. And Will Levis is arguably – where was Desmond Ritter, a 3rd-round pick?
3rd or 4th, yeah.
I don't know. I don't love that.
Yeah, Ronald Acuna just exited the game, so I don't love that either. Pretty upset about that. But at the end of the day, those are my least favorite teams. I do have an award to give out. I have an award to give out to a division who is very good every year, just because they always have what feels like every year the Super Bowl champs, the best quarterback in the league. This division gets the congratulations, guys. You did it. For no one in the division absolutely crap in the draft. That's what they get this for. Not necessarily that they, you get the congratulations you had a mid-draft, because they all fulfilled needs, but they didn't wow nobody. I'm going with the AFC West. I gave them all Bs, straight across the board. I don't think nobody wowed anybody with the picks. I think all 4 had the chance to win the division this year, and I think all got who they needed. So, congratulations, you killed it.
I think you could have given it to either the West or the AFC North.
Yeah.
With the Ravens and Steelers.
But my problem was the Bengals. That's why.
Right. You said you didn't like the Bengals. I thought the Bengals was decent. I actually have 2 guys in the West with Seager, the Chiefs and Chargers. But, I mean, who cares? They're fine.
Do you have any awards you'd like to give out to a certain teams or teams?
Let me just look. I think I can give out the worst award, the worst division award,
Go for it.
which believe it or not, it's the AFC East. You had the Bills, terrible draft. You had the Jets, who while they didn't have much, they also didn't do much that made me happy about them. The Patriots, outside of Christian Gonzalez, had a lot of questionable decisions. Pretty sure they drafted a kicker and a punter. Kicker was 4th round. What are we doing? And then the Dolphins, who I gave a B minus. That was my highest grade of the division. So for the most god awful drafting, as a collective, it goes to the AFC East. Shout out to the East.
Yeah, I gave the Patriots a B plus. That's anything different there. Just because, not because they're crazy, because I trust them. I know that they take guys because they know they can make players out of them. So at the end of the day, that just comes down to trusting they know what they're doing.
Okay.
But that is all for our NFL draft grades. You got anything you want to add or take away from this grading time?
No, I mean, the draft was interesting. We saw a lot of guys go.
Guys get what?
A lot of guys go.
Oh, yep.
You want
Yeah,
your-
there was a lot of guys. There was like 250 whatever.
259 to be exact.
Yeah. Well, there was only 31 first rounders this year because of the Dolphins getting their pick taken away. So that was a little weird. But it's kind of sad though, because like you feel like Joey Porter, like he's the 32nd pick, but he's not a first rounder. Like he doesn't get that pay cut. But anyway, so
I have a feeling he'll get paid eventually.
yes, he's a very talented player. I love that pick by Steelers. I don't think I elaborate on that enough. But that is all from us. We probably will be back tomorrow because we have basketball and baseball to talk about. So we will for sure probably have an episode tomorrow as long as schedules align. And we have an announcement to make in the upcoming days. So we will be on here making an announcement, an upcoming surprise out of bounds. Lots of content coming out. That's just all I'm gonna elaborate on for right now. We'll announce that by the end of the week, probably, because it is in this month. So, maybe your team did good. Maybe your team did bad. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings, Bengals or Bills fans, because you're still very talented teams. So, if I did, then grow up. But that's all I got. I'm sure that's all you got. Go Texans. Go
Broncos.
Texans. Go Steelers.